welcome back. Let's read some more. So I start to get tired because I'm recording video my whole day. So I was reading about the central processing units. So why not read about the graphic processing units? Of course we need to read about graphic card, NVIDIA, the GeForce Radeon. Could read about graphic cards. So maybe do that and find some old computers, but I already have too many PDF. It takes many days and weeks and months to read, so I should not open much more because now I have a crazy number of PDF open. I have to try finish reading. So I will go to my bed. Actually I forgot to get something to drink. So I got some cola. My central processing video is public. But not many watching. But that's not why I do this. I'm not recording this because I hope many 100,000 will watch it. Do this because I like to read about it myself, and I like to have it on my YouTube channel. I can read again later when I get old. When I'm getting too old to sit reading, I can play my own videos and I can learn about it again when I'm like age 80. When I'm old man. No, if I'm old man, I'm sick and I'm laying in my bed, I can watch some of my old videos. But graphic cards will be much stronger in 20 years. I'm age 56. So in 20 years I'm age 76. We will have some better computers in 20 years. So I'm always so thirsty always. But I cannot keep drinking. Yes, let's read about it. I will go to my bed. Graphic processing units.
Graphics processing unit. Components of a GPU. A graphics processing unit, GPU, is a specialized electronic circuit designed to manipulate and alter memory to accelerate the creation of images in a frame buffer intended for output to a display device. GPUs are used in embedded systems, mobile phones, personal computers, workstations, and game consoles. Modern GPUs are efficient at manipulating computer graphics and image processing. Their parallel structure makes them more efficient than general-purpose central processing units, CPUs, for algorithms that process large blocks of data in parallel. In a personal computer, a GPU can be present on a video card or embedded on the motherboard. In some CPUs, they are embedded on the CPU. In the 1970s, the term GPU originally stood for Graphics Processor Unit and described a programmable processing unit independently working from the CPU and responsible for graphics manipulation and output. 2. 3. Later, in 1994, Sony used the term, now standing for Graphics Processing Unit, in reference to the PlayStation console's Toshiba-designed Sony GPU in 1994. 4. The term was popularized by Nvidia in 1999, who marketed the GeForce 256 as the world's first GPU. 5. It was presented as a single-chip processor with integrated transform, lighting, triangle setup /clipping, ARM rendering engines. 6. Rival ATI Technologies coined the term Visual Processing Unit or VPU with the release of the Radeon 9700 in 2002. 7. History. 1970s. Arcade system boards have been using specialized graphics circuits since the 1970s. In early video game hardware, the RAM for frame buffers was expensive, so video chips composite data together as the display was being scanned out on the monitor. 8. A specialized barrel shifter circuit was used to help the CPU animate the frame buffer graphics for various 1970s arcade video games from Midway and Taito, such as Gunfight, 1975, Seawolf, 1976, and Space Invaders, 1978. 9, 10, 11. The Namco Galaxian arcade system in 1979 used specialized graphics hardware supporting RGB color, multi-colored sprites and tilemap backgrounds. 12. The Galaxian hardware was widely used during the golden age of arcade video games, by game companies such as Namco, Century Gremlin, IAM, Konami, Midway, Nishibu's, Sega and Taito. 13. 14. In the home market, the Atari 2600 in 1977 used a video shifter called the Television Interface Adapter. 15. The Atari 8-bit computers, 1979, had Antic, a video processor which interpreted instructions describing a display list the way the scan lines map to specific bit-mapped or character modes and where the memory. Atari Antic microprocessor on an Atari 130XE motherboard is stored, so there did not need to be a contiguous frame buffer. 16. 6502 machine code subroutines could be triggered on scan lines by setting a bit on a display list instruction. 17. Antic also supported smooth vertical and horizontal scrolling independent of the CPU. 18. 1980s. NEC-PD7220. The NEC-PD7220 was the first implementation of a PC graphics display processor as a single large-scale integration, LSI, integrated circuit chip, enabling the design of low-cost, high-performance video graphics cards such as those from No. 9 Visual Technology. It became the best-known GPU up until the mid-1980s. 19. It was the first fully integrated VLSI, very large-scale integration, metal oxide semiconductor, MOS, graphics display processor for PCs, supported up to 1024x1024 resolution, and laid foundations for the emerging PC graphics market. It was used in a number of graphics cards and was licensed for clones such as the Intel 82720, the first of Intel's graphics processing units. 20. The Williams Electronics arcade games Robotron 2084, Joust, Sinister, and Bubbles, all released in 1982, contain custom blitter chips for operating on 16-color bitmaps. 21. 22. In 1984, Hitachi released ARTC HD63484, the first major CMOS graphics processor for PC. The ARTC was capable of displaying up to 4K resolution when in monochrome mode, and it was used in a number of graphics cards and terminals during the late 1980s. 23. In 1985, The Amiga was released with a custom graphics chip including a blitter for bitmap manipulation, line drawing, and area fill. Also included is ACA processor with its own simple instruction set, capable of manipulating graphics hardware registers in sync with the video beam, for example for scanline palette switches, sprite multiplexing, and hardware windowing, or driving the blitter. In 1986, Texas Instruments released the TMS-34010, the first fully programmable graphics processor. 24. It could run general-purpose code, but it had a graphics-oriented instruction set. During 1990-1992, this chip became the basis of the Texas Instruments graphics architecture, Tiger, Windows accelerator cards. The IBM 8514 microchannel adapter, with memory add-on. In 1987, the IBM 8514 graphics system was released as one of the first video cards for IBM PC compatibles to implement fixed function 2D primitives in electronic hardware. Sharp's X68000 released in 1987, used a custom graphics chipset, 25, with a 65,536 color palette and hardware support for sprites, scrolling, and multiple play fields, 26, eventually serving as a development machine for Capcom's CP System arcade board. Fujitsu later competed with the FM Towns computer, released in 1989 with support for a full 16,777,216 color palette. 27. In 1988, the first dedicated polygonal 3D graphics boards were introduced in arcades with the Namco System 21, 28, and Taito Air System. 29. VGA section on the motherboard in IBM PS/55 IBM's proprietary video graphics array, VGA, display standard was introduced in 1987, with a maximum resolution of 644/80 pixels. In November 1988, NEC Home Electronics announced its creation of the Video Electronics Standards Association, VESA, to develop and promote a Super VGA, SVGA, computer display standard as a successor to IBM's proprietary VGA display standard. Super VGA enabled graphics display resolutions up to 800/600 pixels, a 36% increase. 30, 1990s. Thiessen Labs ET4000/W32 PS3 graphics Vergevoodoo 3 2000 AGP card in 1991. S3 Graphics introduced the S386C911, which its designers named after the Porsche 911 as an indication of the performance increase it promised. 31. The 86C911 spawned a host of imitators. By 1995, all major PC graphics chip makers had added 2D acceleration support to their chips. 32. 33. By this time, fixed-function Windows accelerators had surpassed expensive general-purpose graphics coprocessors in Windows performance, and these coprocessors faded away from the PC market. Throughout the 1990s, 2D GUI acceleration continued to evolve. As manufacturing capabilities improved, so did the level of integration of graphics chips. Additional application programming interfaces, APIs, arrived for a variety of tasks, such as Microsoft Swing Graphics Library for Windows 3.x, and their later Direct Draw interface for hardware acceleration of 2D games within Windows 95 and later. In the early and mid-1990s, real-time 3D graphics were becoming increasingly common in arcade, computer, and console games, which led to increasing public demand for hardware-accelerated 3D graphics. Early examples of mass-market 3D graphics hardware can be found in arcade system boards such as the Sega Model 1 Namco System 22, and Sega Model 2, and the 5th generation video game consoles such as the Saturn, PlayStation and Nintendo 64. Arcade systems such as the Sega Model 2 and SG Ionix-based Namco Magic Edge Hornet Simulator in 1993 were capable of hardware T&L, transform, clipping, and lighting, years before appearing in consumer graphics cards. 34, 35. Some systems use CDSPs to accelerate transformations. Fujitsu, which worked on the Sega Model 2 arcade system, 36, began working on integrating T&L into a single LSI solution for use in home computers in 1995. Winking Sad Smiley 37, 38. The Fujitsu Penalite, the first 3D geometry processor for personal computers, released in 1997. 39. The first hardware T&L GPU on home video game consoles was the Nintendo 64's Reality coprocessor, released in 1996. 40. In 1997, Mitsubishi released the Thread Pro /2 MP, a fully featured GPU capable of transformation and lighting, for workstations. And Windows NT desktops. Winking Sad Smiley 41. AT utilized it for their Fire GL4000 graphics card, released in 1997. 42. The term GPU was coined by Sony in reference to the 32-bit Sony GPU, designed by Toshiba, in the PlayStation video game console, released in 1994. 4. In the PC world, notable failed first tries for low-cost 3D graphics chips were the S36RGE, ATI Rage, and Matrox Mystique. These chips were essentially previous generation 2D accelerators with 3D features bolted on. Many were even pin-compatible with the earlier generation chips for ease of implementation and minimal cost. Initially, performance 3D graphics were possible only with discrete boards dedicated to accelerating 3D functions, and lacking 2D GUI acceleration entirely, such as the PowerVR and the 3dFX Voodoo. However, as manufacturing technology continued to progress, video, 2D GUI acceleration and 3D functionality were all integrated into one chip. Rendition's varied chipsets were among the first to do this well enough to be worthy of note. In 1997, Rendition went a step further by collaborating with Hercules and Fujitsu on a thriller conspiracy project which combined a Fujitsu FXG1 Penalite geometry processor with a varied V2200 core to create a graphics card with a full T&L engine years before NVIDIA's GeForce 256. This card, designed to reduce the load placed upon the system's CPU, never made it to market. OpenGL appeared in the early 90s as a professional graphics API, but originally suffered from performance issues which allowed the Glide API to step in and become a dominant force on the PC in the late 90s. 43. However, these issues were quickly overcome and the Glide API fell by the wayside. Software implementations of OpenGL were common during this time, although the influence of OpenGL eventually led to widespread hardware support. Over time, a parity emerged between features offered in hardware and those offered in OpenGL. DirectX became popular among Windows game developers during the late 90s. Unlike OpenGL, Microsoft insisted on providing strict one-to-one support of hardware. The approach made DirectX less popular as a standalone graphics API initially, since many GPUs provided their own specific features, which existing OpenGL applications were already able to benefit from, leaving DirectX often one generation behind. See comparison of OpenGL and Direct3D. Over time, Microsoft began to work more closely with hardware developers and started to target the releases of DirectX to coincide with those of the supporting graphics hardware. Direct 3D 5.0 was the first version of the burgeoning API to gain widespread adoption in the gaming market, and it competed directly with many more hardware-specific, often proprietary graphics libraries, while OpenGL maintained a strong following.